Araquanid has taken the Great League by storm, basically being the Bug-type Bastiodon. So, it being the water event, with its debut, with the spawns being higher than they may ever be in the wild, I decided to throw together the Araquanid PvP IV deep dive, basically running simulations on it to find those little secrets to help you in battle with Araquanid. If you're not familiar with my PvP IV deep dive series, I will be talking about the true stats of the Pokemon, so if it does get a little bit confusing for you, if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, I highly recommend checking out my PvP IVs simplified video, link up above and in the description, to get your feet wet before you dive off into the deep end here. Additionally, I will be doing an article on GamePress, putting all this information in a text-based format, so if you want to reference this information in a text-based format later, I'll have that link down below once it's up. It's easier for me to, adjust an article when the meta changes, when new moves get released, new Pokemon get released. But for the video, I'd have to do a whole new video to, account for those nuances. So yeah, article, pretty useful. Timeless almost. So starting out with the Araquanid Basics here, I'd say there's three different kind of stat flavors that come to Araquanid. There's basically like the high bulk, the bread and butter, your rank 1 kind of Araquanid. Then there's like a medium low attack weight, which I think most players will kind of end up favoring. And then there's also like a medium high attack weight on Araquanid, which kind of bolsters that medium low attack weight, makes it a bit more consistent for that, and allows it to do some other tricky stuff too. Between the three, which one's going to be the best? I think all three have their merits. It really comes down to what kind of meta you're going into, what kind of opponents you're expecting. So I think like a true seasoned battler would want to have, a variety, like each one of the different attack weights or bulk weights, if you will. So yeah, all three pretty valid. And I think that it's kind of nice with the attack weights too, because that does give a little bit more access to players, because it is really hard to get like the super high bulk weight Pokemon. So what are these attack breakpoints, right? Well, going like chronologically, bottom to top, starting out, we have about 97.83, probably less, for Mew. As far as this influencing the Mew matchups goes, it really comes down to what moveset Mew has and, what kind of prior energy is going on. But I think you can imagine that doing 1 extra damage per bug bite on Mew would be a way to take out Mew a little bit more quickly, could help out that fight. Probably not the most critical breakpoint here, but definitely a useful one to be aware of. Then the next attack weight up is going to be for Walrein, starting at 98.36 and going up to as high as 99.93. With this attack weight, you can clip Walrein from reaching that third Icicle Spear in the 0-0 shield situation. It also potentiates the 0-1 shield scenario, so you spend no shields and they have to spend 1 shield, and even in that situation, Walrein might not be able to beat you if you have this attack weight and get the breakpoint. And then it just kind of helps with farming and consistency as well. While Araquanid is like the Bug-type Bastiodon, when it comes to the Walrein matchup, you're not hitting it for super effective damage, so the fight ends up kind of dragging out for a while, especially since Walrein's spamming you with Icicle Spears, right? So if the fight drags out like that, then Walrein could just dip out and, hopefully avoid the Araquanid later on in the fight. And I feel like doing that extra chip damage to it before it goes away could help you out later when something else gets pitted up against the Walrein. So just something else there to think about too, beyond the even Steven locked in PvPoke matchup. Then the next attack weight up, which directly parallels the Walrein situation, is going to be Vigoroth, starting at 98.38 and going up as high, or I guess reasonably high, as 99.2. It could go higher. 99.2 is based on the 0-15-10, so like slightly higher defense weighted Vigoroth. So what does this do for Araquanid in the matchup? Well, it just gives you that much more dominance. You can now take on Vigoroth in the 0-0, the 1-1, the 0-1, and the 1-2 shield scenarios, and you can take it on just straight Bubble Beam in those situations as well. So if you end up against a Vigoroth, Vigoroth most definitely is going to have a miserable time. And then this attack weight, once again, parallels the Walrein. So if you're going for the Walrein thing, then you're also getting the Vigoroth thing. Why not? The next attack weight up chronologically is going to be 98.54 for Lapras. I didn't really investigate the Lapras matchup super closely because I don't see like any Lapras in Great League nowadays. But obviously doing more damage to Lapras helps. It didn't seem like at a surface glance to really flip any of the matchups, but you're doing more damage to Lapras. You can close the fight out sooner if Lapras swaps out, just like with Walrein, you just did more damage to it, so other Pokemon have a better time against it. so it could be helpful. Then for our next attack weight, I feel like this one's also pretty big. Shadow Drapion, starting at 99.02. It could be higher, it could be lower, but for Shadow Pokemon, it's really hard to get really good bulk on them to begin with. The 99.02 is based on the rank 1 Shadow Drapion, which I don't think anybody really has. I mean, obviously, millions of people in the world, somebody has it. Multiple people probably have it. But realistically, so you could go a little bit lower than 99.02 and expect to get this breakpoint. So what does it do for you? Well, it does give you more Bubble Beam only plays against Drapion, and it can open up the 1-2 and possibly 0-1 shield scenarios against the Shadow Drapion. So pretty big deal there. Right now for Sylph, I think they got the Firefly Cup going on, and I know like Vigoroth and Shadow Drapion are like two big names in that, so maybe bring this attack weighted Araquanid to your Firefly Cup. And then there are attack weights that go even higher, beyond 100. But I feel like at that point you're trading so much bulk to hit those higher attack weights, and like the matchups don't really seem to be that big of a deal to me to begin with, that I think I'd rather just kind of rein it in and keep like a soft cap at like 99.6 or 99.4 or something like that. So simplifying the attack weight situation, the medium low attack weight I'd recommend would be 98.38. That encompasses the Walrein, the Vigoroth for the most part. Some Shadow Drapion you're probably going to catch with that. The Mew you're obviously going to catch. Lapras you're probably going to catch. So you're able to get all these breakpoints fairly consistently unless you're up against these higher defense weighted opponents. The next level up I'd recommend would be like 99.2 or 99.4. That would be the medium high attack weight. And that's just to account for those more bulky defense weighted type opponents, because like that ever so slight defense weight can just render the 98.38 useless. So when I want a breakpoint, I want a breakpoint. I want it guaranteed. I want proof in the pudding. I want to know I'm getting it. So I'd personally favor the 99.2 or 99.4 attack weight there. Now, of course, it's not all about the attack breakpoints. You got to consider the bulk too, and there are some minimum bulk checkoffs that Araquanid will want to be aware of. When it comes to the defense, I feel like 164 to like 165.21 is a pretty safe defense to go for on it. This can get you the defense breakpoint on Deoxys defense form. The 165.21 is considering a attack weighted Deoxys defense form, the Mirror Slayer from my deep dive, if you will, the rank 17. So I feel like preparing for that. You could prepare for even higher attack weighted Deoxyses, but I don't think you'll realistically run into them that consistently. I mean, having more defense, not a bad thing, but I feel like at a minimum, like 165.21 or like 164, probably good to shoot for. There are even higher defense weights as well. For example, 171.53 to 174.32 can help you out against Cofagrigus. Although I don't know if it really helps you out, because when I was looking at the even Steven kind of matchups for it, it didn't really like flip the matchup at all, and it just allowed Cofagrigus to like farm you more. So it just ended the fight with more energy, or and that is like, I guess that's not the highest defense weight in the world, but I'm not saying that you shouldn't go for a high defense weight so Cofagrigus would get less farm in this situation, because by that same token you could have an end game situation. They're in the red, you're in the red, and you're gonna farm them down sooner than what they farm you down because you got the defense breakpoint. But considering the even scenarios, I don't think the defense breakpoint's something like worth focusing on compared to like a lower defense weight. There's also defense breakpoint for Umbreon at 172.12, but that doesn't really change anything, so I wouldn't worry about that either. Then when it comes to the HP, I think going for like 134 to 136 range is probably going to be the best. One matchup that stood out to me when it came to this HP weight would be the Sableye 2-shield scenario straight Bubble Beam, like instant Bubble Beam, only Bubble Beam, right? And that can allow you to take it on. 134 is considering if you do have like the 165.21 defense stat. 136 you might need if you are thrifting a little bit more on the defense and you're trying to consider for like slightly higher attack weighted Sableyes there. Then when it comes to defense versus HP in general, I was noticing that higher HP weighted iterations of Araquanid seem to outperform the higher defense weight ones. I mean, as you can tell, there aren't a whole lot of defense breakpoints to begin with. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you need a tiebreaker there, I'd probably favor, HP over defense. So which IVs hit these stat weights? Well, here I have a table from PvPIVs.com, linked in the description, of course. This table starts at a 99.2 attack weight and starts with a 165.2 on defense weight and 134 for the HP weight. So yeah, you can see here that there's 141 different splits that hit this. Even though it is set at 99.2, which I think is perfectly acceptable, if you had to have a tiebreaker, like if you had a 99.3 and a 99.5, I'd probably favor the 99.5 just by virtue of it just being a little bit more consistent for Walrein there. But yeah, if you feel like the defense is too strict or the attack weight is a little bit too strict, at the bottom here, you can adjust the, attack weight. So if you feel like, like the 98.4 is doing it perfectly fine, then you can alter that here at the bottom to give you some more options to see or work with. Personally, I feel like it's better to just plug in the IVs of your Pokemon themselves into a stat calculator, like either pvpoke.com or, using this Go Stadium, or just using CalciIV or PokeGenie or something, rather than just like trying to hunt your IVs on a table. That's my personal take on it, but some people prefer the table. So yeah, link in the description to the table. So that's all I gotta say on Araquanid's IVs here. If you got questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description.